What's up, guys? It's Zivalene, fresh off the terror train from Hurricane Harvey. No, I'm not kidding. That crap sounded like a freight train going by my house for 12 hours throughout the night. And that was just the wind. Anyway, I managed to get my hands on a closed beta code for the new Dissidia Final Fantasy game, but my power got cut off by the hurricane before I had a chance to play it. Went for 4 days without power. Yeah, I know, that's small potatoes compared to other places. After finally getting to play it, I thought I'd make my first honesty policy video out of it, where I give my honest thoughts about some of the games I've played. This isn't a review per se, more it's just a giant monologue of me talking about what I like and don't like about stuff. So let's get to it. Dissidia Final Fantasy NT isn't really news to me. I've been hearing about a PS4 Dissidia since Duodecim came out, and I've been anxiously waiting for it to become a reality. After a while, it was known that Square Enix wasn't developing the game, but Team Ninja, people who specialize in fighting games. You may have heard of some of their earlier titles like Dead or Alive, Ninja Gaiden, and Nioh, so I immediately knew this was going to be a different beast altogether. It's been playable in Japanese arcades for 2 years now, and they're getting ready to release it in January for the PS4. Us non-Japanese folk will have to wait a couple weeks longer before we get our hands on it. Damn localization. In the PSP Dissidia games, I had racked up thousands of hours playing solo and with friends across the country via ad hoc, so naturally I had to sign up for a beta code as soon as possible, and lo and behold, I was one of the lucky few to get it. Like most crossover games, there's a how and a why for all our heroes and villains to come together. In this game, it's not much different from its predecessors. Two gods of opposing forces call upon the good guys or the bad guys to fight for them in a war that never ends. But since this game takes place long after the first Dissidia game, it's not Cosmos and Chaos fighting now, but Materia and Spiritus, both claiming that their mishmash world of other Final Fantasy titles need to be defended from the other. Oh, and everyone remembers who they are, where they came from, and all the wars they've fought in already, because we don't have time for all that amnesia bull crap. So we won't have to put up with convoluted drama like, "Aw, Tidus doesn't remember Yuna," or "Tifa doesn't remember Cloud. Why do they have to fight each other? Now they basically have to learn the same lessons they did in their original game." Thank you, Team Ninja, for not wasting my time. Hopefully the plot holds up like a lot of these mashup fighters never do. From the moment my first battle started, I knew this wasn't just a rehash of the old Dissidia games. For starters, the game is now 3v3 rather than 1v1, although in the full release you'll be able to fill your party with varying amounts of fighters. The HUD is chock full of stuff to keep track of, almost to the point of visual suffocation. The first thing I noticed is that the control scheme is a little strange for those of us who have muscle memory engraved in us from the PSP games. Brave attacks are on X now rather than circle, which is now to jump like in Kingdom Hearts. Dashing is on the R1 button rather than combining R and triangle, and blocking is L1 rather than just pushing R. Dodging is pushing R1 and moving in a direction rather than pushing R and X together. Sounds a lot more simpler, but at the same time, I've fallen back into my early fighting strategy of getting in as many attacks as possible without trying to defend at all because of it. Although it has to do with the fact that the AI is dumb as rocks and I'm used to fighting humans or maximum difficulty AI, so I don't need to worry about ever getting hurt because I swear they aren't programmed to use HP attacks. I don't think I even remember my AI companions using them either, so it feels like I'm doing all the work. Which, to be fair, it's more fun for me. The same basic principles apply in this game. You have brave attacks that raise your brave points, and these determine how much damage your health point attacks do. There are a few notable differences from the original game in the sense that you only get one health point attack per set, and there are no EX bursts now. Instead, you have 3 EX skills to use during battle. A buff, a debuff, and what would now be considered your EX mode. Some are similar to the PSP games like Zidane and Terra transforming into their trance states, while others get totally swapped out. Rather than using his ultimate weapon, Cloud now enters a limit break and reduces his time to charge attacks. Squall doesn't use his Lionheart Gunblade, but draws magic and attributes from other characters to increase his stats. Some characters simply get a long chain attack to give them a significant amount of Brave, like Lightning's Army of One or Tidus' Quick Hit. Since there are no EX bursts, you have to rely more on your skill and strategy in battle in order to win, rather than just using a giant super move. To replace this, you instead break summon cores to eventually call upon a summon, Esper, Eidolon, Aeon, whatever you want to call them. Your summon joins the battle, applies a buff or debuff to the field, and proceeds to wreck the opposing team. Their constant barrages of attacks can seriously mess with the placement on the battlefield, so it's best to try and keep the summons on your side. A lot of the stages are new in this game. Currently, the beta only includes one stage from each of the Final Fantasies represented. A couple of them make a return from the PSP games with different aesthetics, like 4's Lunar Subterrane and 2's Pandemonium. Other Final Fantasies are given new stages, like 7's Northern Crater being switched with Midgar near Maka Reactor 5. 10 is now located on Besaid Island, where Tidus first meets Wakka rather than the destroyed Dreams Anarchin, and it looks gorgeous, by the way. 12 is now in Rabanastre, not the airship Bahamut. 13 has a stage now, the Streets of Eden, when the party returns to raid Cocoon. There isn't a single stage that bores me, and they're all eye-popping and look absolutely beautiful on the PS4. The music, on the other hand, leaves something to be desired in my opinion. By now, we're used to hearing all the main tracks of a Final Fantasy game being remixed and reorchestrated over and over, but these somewhat fell flat to me. In Duodecim, most songs from later Final Fantasies like 10 didn't really get its soundtrack touched, whereas older Final Fantasies like 3 were given a sort of rock metal treatment. Given the original tracks were eventually included as DLC to satisfy your ear holes if you wanted a real classic sound, some of the remixes in NT, however, seem to be so botched that I can hardly recognize them unless I actually pay attention to the little pop-up at the start of the fight. For example, listen to the new version of Final Fantasy X's battle theme, one that didn't get changed in the PSP game from its original format. It's hardly even recognizable until you get to the main part. The first several measures sound washed out by distorted guitars. Where are the cymbal crashes, the trumpets? However, some songs still retain enough resemblance to the originals that I'm not too worked up about it. For example, the Dark Messenger from Final Fantasy IX is mostly intact, and so is Flash of Steel from Final Fantasy XII. One thing the battle music seems to suffer from is a constant need to turn everything into an electric guitar rendition of itself in an attempt to add excitement to the matches, when in reality, it sounds more like Iron Maiden was hired to do all these covers with little to no pay. And if you're thinking I'm saying this because I'm not a rock type person, I actually am. All I listen to is rock music. Metallica, Breaking Benjamin, Gemini Syndrome, Slipknot, Nothing More, so on and so forth. I even prefer a lot of rock covers to older songs better than the originals, such as Disturbed's Sound of Silence, Five Finger Death Punch's House of the Rising Sun, Shinedown's Simple Man, Seether's Careless Whispers, things like that. And it's not like I haven't been impressed by rock covers of Final Fantasy songs made by other musicians on YouTube. These just don't have the same soul of the songs that I'm looking for. The soundtrack was even made by the same guy who did the music for the last 2 games, so what gives? There is another particular song that originated in Dissidia that sounded like it got castrated from its Duodecim version, but it's not in the beta, so I'm just gonna have to wait until the full release to tell you what it is. In case you're wondering, 2 of the game's soundtracks are already available for purchase or listening on YouTube, so you can listen to everything yourself and make your own opinion about it. And then there's the performances. I'm kind of a stickler when it comes to voice acting. A good performance will keep me enthralled the whole way through, while a jarring one will have me putting down the controller within an hour. Generally, I'm a bit more lenient when it comes to English-dubbed Japanese games, like the entire Final Fantasy series. Oftentimes, it's not the lacking talent of the actor, but the narrow constraints they have to work with during recording that makes the lines sound strange. It's most noticeable when the actors have to smash an English translation of a line into a small amount of time with similar tone and inflection to the original Japanese actors. Since the English lines are most commonly an approximate translation, changed up to make sense in our own language, this gives me a proper giggle when some characters conjure a summon. Sometimes it works fine.
Show them just how frightening you can be! Make them turn tail and run!
Slice them in 2!
And other times it doesn't.
Your judgment shall be questioned by none!
They'll think twice about defying us after you're done!
All shall know your judgment is infallible!
Burn them up to their heads in ashes!
Whoa. Enunciation much?
Descend and shock our foes into submission.
Geez, Cloud. Never thought I'd hear you say so much in one sentence, let alone so formally. But other than the summoning, I find the efforts refreshing. Hearing more than one shout or grunt when your character jumps, attacks, or gets hit is like a spa for your ears, compared to the one and only one line that you'll get for each specific action from the last couple games. They even get random different lines for their HP attack. When I played my first match, I was basically getting goosebumps hearing all these collected voices again with new things to say. I know a lot of these characters' actors by heart and can name off at least 5 roles each of them play in other media. The best part is that all the characters still retain their original voice actors. Steve Burton for Cloud, James Earl Taylor for Tidus, Johnny Young Bosch for Firion, Bryce Papenbrook for Zidane, Doug Erholtz for Squall, Ali Hillis as Lightning, Yuri Lowenthal as Cecil, Jason Spizik as Bartz, Aaron Spahn as Onion Knight, Grant George as Warrior of Light, Natalie Lander as Terra, Kenny Milo as Shantoto, Bobby Edner as Vaughn, and Robin Addison for Stola. That's the thing about Final Fantasy games, that when I hear a line in Japanese, I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to hear the familiar voices in English. I can't wait for the full release to hear Christopher Sabat as Garland, George Newbern as Sephiroth, Greg Berger as Jecht, Liam O'Brien as Kain, Hetty Burris as Yuna, Rachel Leigh Cook as Tifa, and Laura Bailey as Cloud of Darkness. All these notorious names and voices in one place and the potential character interactions they give way for just makes me giddy just thinking about it.
You would do well not to misjudge us.
Like they say, no road is long with good company.
None can extinguish the light within us.
Gotta give it 110%.
I dare not lean on these bumbling peons.
Just do what you can.
If you've ever watched a cartoon, played a video game, watched anime, I guarantee you've heard at least 5 of these guys before. Going into each of the playable characters in the beta, I was a little disappointed that only the main protagonist of each Final Fantasy game were available to choose from, excluding Noctis because he's still in development for the game. In Duodecim, I had 6 mains, Sephiroth being my immediate go-to, followed by Yuna, Zidane, Kain, Cloud, and Tifa. Out of those 6, only 2 of them are available in the beta. However, we know that all the characters in the previous games will be included in the full release. Kain is already in the arcade version. So it felt a little off-putting jumping into this without being able to put my most comfortable gloves on. Thankfully though, I was pleased to see that Cloud and Zidane didn't get any major huge changes to them, aside from Cloud charging his attacks and Zidane having the steal ability. Both of these characters used to have health point attacks that would stem from a certain chain of brave attacks, which don't exist anymore, but I can deal with it. Even more surprising was that I found characters that I practically avoided in Duodecim very fun and enjoyable, probably even more so than the 2 characters that I usually play. In this case, I'm referring to Tidus and Bartz. I used to find Tidus' skill set, well, tedious, given that spacing and reading of your opponents was a huge part of playing him. While Bartz was kinda just meh, copying the attacks of his allies, now Tidus' attacks seem to flow better. He feels more agile and accurate. He's practically a mosquito, and if you don't squish him while he's buzzing around you, he isn't going away. Bartz is now properly represented from Final Fantasy V by using a bunch of different attacks from the various jobs from his game. He feels more like his own character, and even better is that he's practically a jack of all trades. He's long range, mid range, short range, and the best part is that he gets permanent buffs. Permanent buffs, meaning that they can't be taken away, and there are 8 of them in total. So when you master a job by landing 2 attacks, Bartz earns a buff to his bravery, strength, speed, summoning speed, dash speed, cooldowns, whatever you can think of. And it gets better. When he uses Boko's feather that he carries around, he can give all the buffs he currently has on him to his teammates. Holy shit! God has touched upon Earth, and his name is Bartz Clauser. And in general, every character is fun to play now. Everyone feels unique, everyone has a different strategy to employ. Sure, you can go and try to wail on the enemies as much as possible and then use some HP attacks until you win, but I like how each of the characters makes me approach a fight differently. Vaughn doesn't have a great brave attacks, but he's meant to chip away at your health points. The more HP attacks he lands, the stronger they get until he's incapacitated. Terra can spam magic all day, but if you're patient, her magic gets stronger. Cecil changing between jobs provides him with buffs, so you're encouraged to do so frequently, not just stick with either Paladin or Dark Knight. Not to mention Dark Knight's HP attacks cost you health, so you have to switch to Paladin to heal, like the jobs are supposed to do. Firion can combo for days and then kill the entire enemy team in a single blow. Everyone feels like they are better represented in this game than they were in a mashup brawler made by their own developer. Not only do the people at Team Ninja pay attention to the reference material, they know what it takes to make such a game have more depth mechanically, streamline the controls, and add an extra layer of strategy and skill into the mix. And acknowledging that they have said that there are going to be at least 50 characters playable in this game, I'm super excited to try all of them out and find some new mains. Yeah, I said at least 50. The developer said that 50 is a minimal goal, but it still seems too small for what they have in mind. For perspective, the original Dissidia only had 22 characters to play as. Duodecim had 31 playable characters, excluding Aerith, who is only a support character. Currently, there are 35 known characters to be in Dissidia NT, and I'm really looking forward to see the others that they will announce over time. All in all, I'm hyped up to play the full game upon release. I honestly wasn't until I managed to play the beta, mostly because the concept of 3v3 didn't really interest me in the same way that Dragon Ball Xenoverse didn't quite hold my attention until I'm playing with 2 friends. But now that I've played it, I'm really hoping it holds up to the expectations I'm setting for it. As for my rant on the music before, it's not entirely bad since they're apparently going to allow you to use music from the previous Dissidia games in it if you don't want to listen to their new covers. All the skins and costumes that the characters had in previous games will also be available, so really, I don't have much to complain about. The game looks gorgeous. Everything looks like it's a CG cutscene straight out of the PSP games, if not better than that. The tweaks and mechanics are a welcome addition, and it gets a lot of extra bonus points for me getting hooked on characters I wouldn't have bothered to play with in the old games. So those are my honest thoughts about the Dissidia NT closed beta. It's still a little early to be getting too critical about it, but we'll see how things turn out when the game gets released for real. I hope an open beta comes around so the rest of you can try it as well. Tell me what you thought of this video by rating it and leaving a comment. Feel free to leave suggestions of other games I should get brutally honest about. And don't forget to click that subscribe button to see more of my videos down the road. And something new I've been keeping up with is a Discord channel for my server, where you can talk to me and others directly and give me your thoughts straight up. I put up all my recent uploads there and even occasionally poll for what the next video should be. We also play games and just have friendly chats. It's basically my little social experiment to help me improve my channel and other projects I'm working on. Oh, and don't worry, I didn't forget. Just because he said so, I'm gonna have to give a shout out to Panthers for Life Gaming, who requested that I give him a shout out on my Discord channel. We're over 30 people strong right now, so if you want to add to that number, you'll find the invite code in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch y'all later.